Welcome to the Gold Newsletter Podcast, your bank of knowledge of investment, economics, and geopolitics. Go to goldnewsletter.com for our publications and archives.
This is the Gold Newsletter Podcast. Fergus Hodgson, your host. I'm without my co-host Brian London. He's working hard. He's always producing more Gold Newsletter newsletters and all the different Fridays. So I'll look forward to having him back next episode. If you have not already, please do subscribe. You can hit the subscribe button on YouTube, SoundCloud, BitChute, wherever you are. And we're also eager to have feedback. Please comment, and we are glad to engage. Today we have a gentleman who is one of the world leaders in reporting on mining. He is the executive editor of mining.com. He's got 20 years experience in the field, so a wealth of knowledge. He's based in British Columbia on Vancouver Island. Gorgeous spot. I'm a little bit jealous right now. And so I'm going to pick his brain about how this has evolved. Frik Els is his name, and mining.com is his website. Frik, welcome to the show, and please tell us what motivated you to get into mining, and why have you stuck with it, all these years?
Hi, Fergus. Thanks for having me on. I maybe didn't know this 10 years ago, 11 years ago when I joined mining.com, but I think the mining industry is having its moment in the sun right now. I mean, it is. There are many narratives around the mining industry that's really taken off. Think about electric vehicles, think about renewable energy and storage, think about lots of issues around critical minerals that seems to have gone beyond the mining industry now, and as the broader public is beginning to understand what the mining industry does. And I think that is also reflected in mining.com's growth. Earlier this year, we hit 1 million users in a single month. And it's not just, our audience has also evolved. In the early days, it was mostly North American. Now we have more people outside North America than our audience in the rest of the world. Including in our top 10 most visited countries is Singapore, Malaysia is there from time to time, India. So we really try and serve a global audience and have a global approach to mining news and opinion.
Yeah. And I've actually just finished and reviewed Why Gold, Why Now by E.B. Tucker, which is largely why mining, why now, because a lot of what he promotes is investment in mining. And as you said, there are a lot of narratives that lead into this, but you didn't really answer the question. I really wanted a bit more of a personal story there. You're from South Africa. I mean, people can hear your accent. And you've settled in Canada, and Vancouver, just by Vancouver Island, is basically the center or headquarters for a lot of mining companies, and also the Toronto Venture Exchange, I guess, is the primary exchange for the junior miners.
Yeah.
So, but what appeal about it has kept you involved? What particular narrative keeps you excited? Why do you really enjoy what you do?
It's a good question. I've worked in other industries, reported on other industries as well. I did a few years as a tech reporter, and you kind of get to a point where, yes, the latest iPhone is brilliant, but is a new app, is a new social media feed really going to change my life? Or, is the latest iteration of an SQL database, is that really going to get me excited? And what I really like about mining is it is completely global, and it touches people's lives in so many ways. So I could I could start my day. I kind of start over every morning. So I could start my day reporting on or reading about the what is happening in the South Gobi Desert with the communities there, and because of the huge copper mine that's being built there or being expanded there. And I can go from that to the Federal Reserve's announcements and its impact on the gold price in the afternoon. Yeah. So it is the varied nature of the industry, and just how widespread it is, to use a strange word. That is what I like.
A lot of people in this space do have ideological inclinations. Let's say they're big believers in private property or individualism or whatever it may be. Does that apply to you?
Yes, I would say so. It's another thing of the industry is there isn't sort of a consensus view of what works and what doesn't. There, it's less insular than many of the other industries I've worked in. I was in this is maybe 15 years ago now, even more. I was in Kinshasa in the DRC. It wasn't to cover mining, it was to cover the launch of a cellular network there. But that kind of gives you new perspectives. It's same with mining. If you read about what the difference a mine can make in rural Burkina Faso, a gold mine run by on a professional basis by a Canadian company within a rural area of Burkina Faso, just the contrasts, the clash of cultures, just the way of engaging with the broader world versus Silicon Valley and not much more. Yeah.
Right. During your time, obviously a lot has changed, right? So we both grew up before the internet, and around 2000, I guess, is when it was really starting to gain steam. And especially in the last decade, that has become the case, that we're just flooded with information. Now, I guess in some ways that's good, more people are engaged, but in other ways it's harder. So how has your role as a mining journalist evolved?
I think probably the number one thing that it's been sort of the guiding principle with mining.com. I know in 2011 when I joined, it was like 3 months after the launch. We were not even a tenth of the audience we have now, but our focus has always been serve the audience. It's almost service journalism, as in when we write about the copper price, we're not writing it sort of this is our view, this is what's happening, you take it or you leave it. We try and give a service, linking everywhere. If we want to give tools to people to sort of guide themselves, it's not just, oh, here's a quick report, you read it and then you go. We want to sort of always, the first thing is always, what do they want and how can we give it to them?
And I guess you say that because it's in contrast to the way that a lot of legacy or even alternative journalism has evolved in the last decade, becoming much more agenda driven, where outlets they don't really hide what they're trying to promote. And in some ways, it's I'm not sure whether this is a sad thing, but a lot of outlets now are serving the interests of the owners, right, with their agendas. And I think, let's say the Washington Times, not that I have anything against them, but they're owned by a religious organization. Or, so there's a lot more agenda or advocacy journalism. And you're saying that basically at mining.com and just in your own work, you've tried to resist that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, especially an industry website, you can become captive to the bigger powers within that industry. So another way another clear focus of ours has been, we want to serve everyone that's touched by mining. So the communities in the Amazon who are protesting against development, we want to give them a voice as well. Or we're all about mining, but we are not representative of the mining industry. So we are read by the green lobby and NGOs, and it's not always easy, because there is also lots of ignorance within the wider world about what the mining industry does and what they bring to the world. So let's take something that artisanal mining in the DRC. It's very easy to blame Western companies operating in the DRC of exploiting the situation there, or the little people or the ordinary people in the DRC is not benefiting from the cobalt and copper mines there, and all the profits go to London and New York. But those companies also bring in skills and community development. I mean, there isn't a mining company these days that are not building schools or helping communities out with water projects or broader skills training within the community. So they bring all of these things. If those Western mining companies were not there, the workers that now work for these companies would be exposed to a warlord going in there and child labor and all of those things. So we also want to bring that message to the wider world, and at the same time not absolving the mining industry from certain practices of the past, or so.
Yeah, that it's, as you say, it's a very delicate balance and a difficult path to take, trying to just give the objective situation, because no, everyone's a sinner, and it is difficult, especially because I think, as you said, there are misunderstandings about the sector. And I actually took a class in stakeholder management this last year. And of course, mining is one of the particular fields that for which stakeholder management is absolutely crucial, because they have to deal with all the local communities, regulators, activist groups, whatever it may be. And I assume that is consuming more and more of your reporting, the strategies that firms adopt to handle that.
Yeah, and I mean, again, over the past decade, you can see how these things change. I mean, now, if you're trying to develop a project, in a rural area in South America or anywhere, your first stop really is the surrounding communities, to get a social license, to get buy-in from the community. I mean, you have to find, I guess, you have to find gold there or copper there in the first instance. But the next thing you do is not build the road and start drilling. The next thing you do is, setting this mine up within the community, because without that, you're not gonna have a license to operate. And that then you are going to see down the line, you're going to see blockades and protests because the local community has not been involved in this process. And that also makes it sustainable. Some of the mines that have been abandoned, or projects that have been abandoned in the past because of community opposition, I think if they were started the way many projects are started now, would actually have gone ahead. Because I do believe, ESG is a word that's thrown around all the time now, but it is crucial if you want to set up a project in certain jurisdictions.
The Gold Newsletter is proudly sponsored by Inventa Capital Corporation, a venture capital advisory firm dedicated to the acquisition and development of assets in the natural resource sector. Today, Inventa is one of the premier mining groups with a first-rate portfolio of companies and a world-class team.
Hi, this is Brian London, and I'm here with this week's CEO interview, in which we interview one of the CEOs of one of the companies in the Inventa Capital Group, with the Inventa Capital Group, of course, being the podcast sponsor, the sponsor of the Gold Newsletter podcast. This week, it's my great pleasure to talk with Charles Funk, the CEO of Heliostar Metals. Once again, Heliostar's symbol is HSTR on the TSX Venture Exchange. And Charles, we've been talking about your prospect, the Unga project in Southwest Alaska, on which you were able to get working on much earlier than you would expect for a northern latitude project because of the mild weather. But you made news in the very recent days on your project in Mexico, one of your projects in Mexico, and some extraordinary sampling results, vein sampling results, silver primarily. And you have a lot of experience in this area. It's obvious that you're very enthusiastic and pleased with these results, because you set about to increase your land position by, 10 times after you got these results in. And you have a lot of experience, again, with this, being the VPX of Vizsla, with having a very large land position with a number of identified vein sets and vein corridors. Can you talk to us a bit about these recent sampling results you've gotten on your Mexican property, and how, are there any analogs to your experience at Vizsla?
Yeah, thank you. As you said, Unga is very clearly our flagship, but I think each one of our projects, the three that we've got in Mexico, could all be company makers in their own right. It's what we look for as a team. It's what we looked for when we started with Panuco, with Vizsla. So we sampled, 360 meters of strike, average width of 1.3 meters, average grade of 420 grams silver equivalent in last week's press release at Oso Negro. If it wasn't for the drill program in Alaska, we'd be starting to drill tomorrow. Just for a smaller company, so we've got to space that till later in the year. But what we look for is with these kind of systems, and interestingly, these Panuco, Unga are all similar kinds of systems. You need a lot of outcropping veins, and then you go looking along those veins for where the ore shoots might fall. And so there's sort of a routine process that you follow through. You prospect them, and then you do systematic mapping, and then you follow up and drill. And so obviously projects like Unga with the resource, or Panuco well on the path to resource, are a long way down that journey. But our projects, including Oso Negro, La Lola, and Kumaro, they're at that stage where we're prospecting and detailed mapping. So we knew we had some good results at Oso Negro. This time around, we systematically sampled it to look for those sweet spots. And so it's kind of a boring answer, but there's a systematic process that unlocks the potential of these. And we're just lucky at Elsa Negra to have great grades at surface.
It's a shame you can't start drilling tomorrow, but what is keeping you from drilling tomorrow is another extraordinary project. Again, the Unga project in Alaska. Hundreds of thousands of ounces of established resource at very high grades there. You're embarking or have embarked on your second phase drill program. It seems like you are very confident in that program, that you have an understanding now that perhaps no one has ever had on this project before of where to look for the gold, where the structures are trending. And of course, you have 3 or more different projects with some differences among the geology. Bring us up to speed, if you will, on that program right now. Where you're drilling, why you're drilling, and when you expect results.
Yeah, there's no substitute for experience. And last year we got on the ground, we got our first drilling underway. And the reason we're so excited about Unga is because we're not just taking wildcat drill holes. We're stepping out from a high-grade resource, a 13.8 gram per ton resource. I sort of skip over that sometimes and forget the magnitude. Expanding our discovery at Aquila and finding the old vein. There's a great detective story that we can talk about at another time, of finding the old vein underneath the old Apollo mine. And so we hit mineralization in each of those areas last year. We're just stepping out this year. So it's not wildcat exploration. We've now got about 30 holes completed. We've got 2 RC rigs and a diamond rig. We expect to have news in the next few weeks. The advantage, as you said, of getting going in April and May is that we're getting results back at the time that a lot of companies are just mobilizing to their projects. So we've drilled about 5 holes now at SH1, another 20 odd holes in the Apollo Sitka area. And we've just started drilling. I think we've got 3 or 4 holes now into Aquila as of today. So we really hit the ground running. And I think we can have results in the next 2 to 3 weeks at the absolute latest. So pretty excited to see those because of the high probability nature of the drilling.
Yeah, that's a lot of results coming up, and at a point where it could catch the market napping, as it were. Where investors are just starting to wake up and look at these drill programs starting in the northern latitudes and trying to get positioned. And as you say, you'll have results out before anyone else gets started. So I don't know if the market's really expecting either that or the kinds of grades you're very likely to turn up. I encourage anyone listening to this to go to your website and look at some of the graphics you have there to see the clear expansion potential, where these veins, where this mineralization is heading, where you anticipate or have actually indicated it's heading, and where you're drilling right now, and why you have such a high confidence that you're going to get some good results. The market lives for those kinds of results and those kinds of grades, and they're going to get them pretty soon. Charles, looking at your share price and your share structure, I think it's worthy to comment how tight of a share structure you have. I just reviewed it again while we were speaking, and it's pretty remarkable that you're doing things the right way. So any news really can send the share price flying.
Yeah, absolutely. We're 37 million shares on issue. We've just got short of $8 million in the bank to fully fund the summer program. So if we do have success, there should be pretty significant talk. And I think you're right. It's rare to see so many high probability targets on one project. So it's going to be a fun summer. But for your listeners who remember the Vizsla journey, I think it's a fair analog to say that we're just 12 months behind. Where today, Heliostar is where Vizsla was this time last year. And discovery success can really move the needle and make a lot of money.
Yeah, if you look at the share price chart of Vizsla, that's all you need to say. If you have that ahead of you, then you'll make a lot of money for people who buy in now. Charles, thank you so much for the exciting update. The news on the Mexico project is really fascinating and exciting. That alone could be a company maker, but the odds of building on the resource are very high at Unga, and those results are coming in any day now. So times are wasting, the window is closing. This is a great buying opportunity for Heliostar.
Yeah, we agree. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Charles.
It is a challenge because sometimes I fear such generous stakeholder engagement almost empowers communities to be more aggressive and demand even more. It's almost like this downward spiral. But I see the challenge because Latin America is the part of what I know best. And it is the case there that violent opposition, as you mentioned, blockades or riots or whatever, it just seems to be part of the history.
Yeah.
And you can either, and maybe past ways of just getting heavy-handed about it, they're just not going to work anymore. And that has held up mines in Mexico, Guatemala. I'm thinking right now of Colombia, where there's a great deal of upheaval or violence. And it's just a real, landmine, minefield to navigate. Now, also, I mean, this may be a bit sensitive, but of course, with the flood of information, I mean, we're all on Twitter, debating everybody, discussing things. Is it just getting tougher to command a premium for information, right? And even now with social media, people are keeping their eyes on, let's say, LinkedIn or Twitter, and getting them off the platforms to the websites is getting tougher. How is a media outlet evolving to handle this more competitive, intensely competitive battle for eyeballs?
Yes. So that is, it's a very hard job making money from news online. There is it's sort of it's become a big boys game.
What do you mean?
If you're not the New York Times or maybe the Guardian or the Wall Street Journal, you're not going to get very far. The regional papers or even the city papers are going to go away, and I guess it's the same, in sort of the business to business press. I mean, Bloomberg has 2,500 reporters.
Wow.
There's no, you do not compete.
It's like trying to compete with the CBC for regular news in Canada.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one side of it. That's the big media, but who you're really up against is obviously is Facebook and Google. So Google is a bit of a double-edged sword for us. So we grew the way we did because of Google. People get to us by search.
Yes.
People don't go to except for in exceptions, they don't go to a website to the homepage and then they start browsing around. They want something specific. They search for it and then they get it on mining.com. So that's our task is to be, the problem with that is then Google is, eating our lunch.
What do you mean? How are they eating your lunch? Because they're taking the advertising?
People will advertise for the keywords on Google rather than at their destination on mining.com. It's just Facebook, the same thing. You can have parameters on Facebook that says, I want to target engineers in the northwest of the US with this message of mine.
Yeah.
So we can't do that, and they multiply that by millions and millions. So to get to those 300 engineers you're targeting in the Western United States, you're not going to spend much money. But if you want to, maybe reach the same audience, it's not going to help us if you send us $200 to reach that same target. So we are, I mean, this is it's a huge issue, and I think the thinking about it is beginning to change. The hegemonic way that Facebook and everybody else, has, sort of they collect a rent on top of all the information providers like mining.com, which is they're rent seekers.
To some degree, in your point about the big boys winning out in legacy journalism makes a lot of sense, because there's a tremendous economies of scale scenario where to have one more subscriber costs nothing, right? Basically, it may be administrative costs, but essentially the marginal cost of serving another person is zero, right? In the digital platforms. So having a larger content base and just adding more and more subscribers, it is obviously winning out, and the name recognition is there. So like you said, the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, New York Times, these guys are actually doing well at this point, which is surprising, while other papers are fading away rapidly. Now, let's flip it a little bit, right? So I see that challenge, and it's something that I've wrestled with too, mate. I've been working in journalism for maybe a decade now or more, and I do see that challenge. And I guess in some ways you have to communicate also that you have the real juice, you have the superior information. So this is just this flood of information. So much of it is just junk, right? It's just noise.
Yeah.
We've got to somehow get through that. So what then do you say to people who, we all have limited time in the day. Let's say you want to just spend a few hours a week devoted to your finances, really researching. How do you get through that noise, right? What do you say to you're the professional providing it. What's the case you make to readers as to how to best decipher information that is relevant to them?
Yeah, what I have found anecdotally and otherwise is people subscribe to our digest because it is a quick rundown of what is happening on that day in mining. So if you want to get an overview, you go to mining.com, and by the time you get to the bottom of the homepage, you should be caught up.
Right.
That is for the generalist that wants to know, what's going on and have something to say. Will be able to comment on if somebody asks them about something. If you want to cut through the clutter, that is, I guess that's another function of mining.com, is that you can have certain topics, go in there, or just go onto Google and search up that topic, and you might end up at mining.com. And once you're on mining.com, it's back to the service journalism. we try and send you to the relevant information from there. It's a bit like we want you to take a journey through the site. So if you're reading about artisanal mining in the DRC, we will tell you about similar projects, say in the Amazon, or the problems in Peru with illegal gold mining and pollution. So
right.
Before you leave mining.com, you should have a few perspectives on a single subject. And also, especially the word has gone away a little bit, but we are also curators of information. So we want to have products and that sort of picks for you. So personalization would probably be the next big step for us. That you you sign up for mining.com and you pick your topics of interest, and you pick the frequency of how often you want to be updated on those topics, and that is eventually what what we believe would be a good service, a paid service. Everything is still free, but we go and curate the information on your behalf, and we package it for you and we send it to you.
Yeah, so you basically fit it to someone's needs. And this is one reason why just the peculiar aspects of the mining sector that information actually can be more valuable. Because of such inefficiencies in the markets, because a lot of these companies are so small, there's such, the information is less available. Or maybe what I mean is that there's less efficiency, so there's more opportunity for the well-informed investor to do well, basically. Whereas with the blue chip stocks, for example, everybody knows what's going on. You have to have some kind of incredible insider information or whatever to really beat that, to get ahead of the market. So maybe you want to comment on the merits of this sector or being informed to your own bottom line.
Right. Another thing I enjoy about working in the mining industry is exactly the fact that there is such a vibrant retail investment scene. I mean, if oil and gas, there isn't, maybe you can, but oil and gas is serviced by debt. So there's no real pickings to be had for the retail investor there.
Sure.
Tech is taken over by venture capitalists, so you don't have an in there either.
Yeah, it's hard for the retail investor to get in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So mining is still an area where the amateur enthusiast, for the lack of a better word, can can really get their teeth into it. Because there is a lot of junior mining companies out there, and they are making discoveries. They are or developing new processes, especially with the electric vehicles. Refining and processing is becoming a bigger part of mining. It's not just taking the stuff out of the ground, is what you do afterwards. So there is opportunities for for the retail investor to find something, as opposed to throwing money at an ETF or a mutual fund, and people are you're paying management fees, or you're tracking the S&P and you're going up and down with the S&P and there's nothing else. Here you can still in mining you can still kind of hit it rich, if you really want to go that way.
Let's just say the marginal benefit to being informed is much greater in the mining sector than in other areas.
Yes, and you're the big funds, they have all the resources, but they are not going to go and highly paid analysts to dig through the lower ranks of the TSXV. They're just not going to do that. So they are, that's where you find the gems, is the early stage. We try to cater for that market as well. It's and things are changing so fast too. Yes, gold at today's gold price, there'll be lots of smaller companies that's going to do really well. But there is small little niche markets that gets overlooked, and maybe rare earth is it's a very small market, few players, but it plugs into trillion-dollar industries. Can't have automotive without rare earths.
We're working that out right now. Even just renting a car now, the price has gone through the roof because of a few components there's a short supply of.
Yeah.
Okay, now Frik, you're on LinkedIn and from memory, Twitter too. And otherwise, just go to mining.com. We'll have all the links at goldnewsletter.com/podcast. And follow Frik. There's so much more going on in his work. I've always, I respect someone who has the experience in the field. So thank you for your time, Frik, and enjoy a lovely afternoon out there in Vancouver Island.
Thank you very much. It was great speaking to you.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.